The moment people sense uncertainty in you, something changes in their behavior. Their tone sharpens. Their confidence expands. They interrupt more, question more, push harder. Not because they are truly powerful, but because pressure feeds on reaction. Most intimidation has very little to do with strength. It comes from the hope that emotion will pull you away from yourself. And the unsettling truth is, it often works. People rush to defend themselves. They explain too much. They try to regain control emotionally, while the other person quietly takes control psychologically. Stoicism understood something timeless about human nature: a person who cannot govern their emotions will eventually be governed by the emotions of others. That is why calmness carries such quiet power.
Welcome to True Stoic Journal, the path to inner control.
It interrupts manipulation. It exposes the deep insecurity hidden beneath aggression. The person who remains composed under pressure becomes impossible to control. Their identity no longer depends on approval, fear, or emotional victory. And once you reach that state, intimidation begins collapsing on its own. Pressure loses all momentum when it finds nothing unstable to hold on to. Most people think strength is loud. The Stoics believed the exact opposite. Real strength appears in the pause before a reaction. It is the ability to stay grounded while someone else completely loses control of themselves. Not cold. Not emotionless. Just steady. Steady enough that chaos cannot easily enter your mind. And when you learn how to protect that inner steadiness, you stop fearing pressure. The moment pressure enters a conversation, the body changes automatically. Breathing shortens. Posture shifts. The voice tightens. Thoughts start racing ahead of the moment itself. Intimidation depends entirely on this visible disturbance. The aggressor watches closely for a rushed explanation, nervous laughter, or excessive defending. These reactions become proof that their tactics are working. They push harder not because of the truth, but because they respond to your movement. Most people become desperate to remove tension as quickly as possible. Silence feels completely unbearable. They start speaking too quickly, trying to repair the atmosphere before understanding themselves. But pressure grows stronger when it controls your tempo. The faster you react emotionally, the easier it becomes for someone else to lead the interaction. A calm person puts pressure on to slow down. And once the pace slows, clarity begins returning to the room. Aggression expects collision and defensive energy. When none of that appears, the person trying to dominate slowly loses certainty. Their emotional momentum suddenly has nowhere to land. It is like throwing force against a wall that refuses to move. Eventually, the person pushing becomes hyper-aware of their own behavior. And self-awareness changes people quickly. Many individuals appear powerful only as long as others react automatically around them. The Stoics believed freedom exists inside the pause between stimulus and response. When you train yourself to remain still for even a few seconds longer, you interrupt the entire pattern. You stop becoming predictable. And that unpredictability becomes your greatest strength. Silence forces people to sit with themselves. Most intimidation is performative at its core: the louder voice, the invasive posture. But performances need engagement to survive. The moment emotional engagement disappears, the performer becomes aware of the performance itself. That awareness creates discomfort faster than any confrontation would. This does not mean turning composure into suppression. Real steadiness feels natural. It is not about pretending pressure does not affect you. It is about refusing to let it control your behavior. Slowing down internally is an act of quiet resistance. You stop seeing intimidation as proof of their power and begin recognizing it as information about their emotional imbalance. Truly centered people do not need domination to feel stable. Intimidation relies on emotional intensity instead of clarity. They speak in absolutes and throw accusations without detail to cause disruption. Once you are emotionally overwhelmed, your thinking narrows. A sharp tone or unearned confidence suddenly starts sounding like the truth. Marcus Aurelius wrote that external events do not control the mind unless the mind grants them permission through judgment. Instead of becoming entangled, calm observation examines the structure underneath. What exactly is being claimed? What evidence supports it? Which part is fact, and which is exaggeration? This is why calm questions change everything without becoming confrontational. When someone says, "You always ruin situations like this," a calm response interrupts the pattern. Which situation are you referring to specifically? What exactly do you believe went wrong? Suddenly, the conversation must move away from emotional force and toward precision. Aggression survives inside vagueness. The moment specifics become necessary, exaggeration loses stability. Once required to explain themselves carefully, their language becomes less certain and their rhythm slows down. As Epictetus said, a man can't learn what he thinks he already knows. Remaining mentally seated while another person rushes emotionally keeps you connected to reality. Loudness is not authority. Aggression is not wisdom. A composed mind filters before responding. It examines before concluding. As Seneca wrote, the greatest power is often simple patience. The person who stays attentive instead of reactive controls the pace. When tension enters, the body prepares for danger before the mind fully understands. Fast emotions narrow perception, making temporary feelings appear permanent. But stability communicates something words cannot imitate. A person who moves slowly during tension signals that their emotional state remains under their own authority. Their gestures stay controlled. Their posture remains grounded. Fast emotional energy starts looking scattered next to someone who remains centered. Forced calmness feels performative, but real composure comes from internal clarity. As Carl Jung observed, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Once you stop rushing emotionally, you see people accurately, and intimidation loses its illusion. This matters because physical reactions teach the nervous system how to interpret the future. Every unconscious retreat becomes a physical memory, training the body to yield. The Stoics knew that the body and mind shape one another. A restless posture strengthens inner instability, a grounded posture strengthens inner steadiness. Human beings read one another physically. People sense insecurity or steadiness before a conversation even begins. Intimidation often uses spatial pressure, standing too close or interrupting physical rhythm. Most individuals respond by unconsciously shifting backward, giving up emotional territory. Awareness breaks this cycle. Remaining still or maintaining relaxed eye contact prevents their energy from overtaking you. One of the quietest forms of power is remaining psychologically where you are. Stop trying to emotionally manage the aggressor or rushing to repair the atmosphere. Stay connected to yourself first. Manipulative people depend heavily on emotional access. The moment anger takes over, choice disappears. Highly intelligent individuals often become the most reactive when their ego is triggered. But emotional detachment creates enough internal space that emotion does not immediately become action. When someone throws emotional bait, ask yourself, is this information, or is it emotional pressure? Without your participation, their emotional momentum collapses. They are deeply dependent on dominance to maintain a sense of certainty within themselves. There is something deeply freeing about recognizing that another person's emotional state is not your responsibility. Constant emotional management disconnects you from yourself. Calm detachment strengthens boundaries. There is less need to prove yourself or win every interaction. Guilt loses power. Insults lose force. When calm detachment removes the emotional fuel, the aggressor's confidence begins unraveling quietly. Most people believe strength means immediate resistance, pushing back with equal force. But emotional conflict feeds itself, turning communication into a struggle for dominance. Real steadiness does not panic when confronted by another viewpoint. Acknowledgement and submission are completely different things. Weak people agree because they fear tension, strong people can acknowledge. After all, tension does not control their identity. When calm acknowledgement appears instead of defensiveness, their expected momentum slows down. Many people over-explain themselves during conflict to prove their worth. They repeat arguments and justify every detail. But certainty rarely behaves that way. Brevity reflects clarity. A centered person states their position clearly and allows it to exist without excessive emotional reinforcement. The ego wants victory to temporarily protect identity from insecurity. But when you no longer need emotional triumph, you stop treating disagreement like a threat. People trust calm certainty far more than loud certainty. One of the clearest signs of self-control appears at the very end of difficult interactions. Endings reveal attachment. They show whether you are free or still emotionally trapped. Many individuals lose composure near the conclusion, staying too long, searching for one final sentence to make the other person understand. A centered person recognizes when an interaction no longer serves clarity. Sometimes the strongest response is ending participation without emotional collapse. As Socrates understood, strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and weak minds discuss people. The Stoics believe true strength is the ability to leave situations without carrying bitterness. When provoked, the mind wants the interaction emotionally resolved before peace feels possible. But peace built on external resolution is fragile. A steadier peace comes from releasing the need to emotionally complete every conflict. Every time you disengage calmly, your nervous system learns that tension does not require panic. Most individuals carry interactions long after they physically end, replaying better arguments and sharper comebacks. This emotional residue creates a psychological imprisonment. A calm mind refuses to feed it. Calm disengagement communicates more confidence than prolonged conflict ever could. It shows you no longer depend on controlling the outcome. Once you stop carrying their presence internally, their power over your internal world fades naturally. You realize the deeper struggle was never about defeating another person externally. It was always about remaining connected to your own clarity. As Carl Jung wrote, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The moment you stop needing to prove yourself under pressure, they can no longer control your inner world. And that is exactly where real strength begins, quiet, grounded, unshaken. If this message stayed with you, watch one of the videos on your screen right now and continue building the kind of mind that remains steady in difficult moments. Join us here to continue cultivating a mind that filters before it feels, stands firm without fighting, and protects its pace in a world addicted to instant reaction. Thank you for being part of True Stoic Journal. Until next time, protect your peace and remain centered.